Hey, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Creator Toolbox. This is the show all about the nuts and bolts behind your creator business. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, joined by Jacob. As always, how are you getting on, Jacob?
Really good. Glad to be back.
Good, good. And this week round, we have a very good friend as a guest, the most excellent Richard Tubb. How are you getting on, Richard?
I'm very well. Good to see you both. Good to see you both.
Yeah, lovely to see you too. Richard, I feel I know you really well, but I actually don't know exactly how to describe the thing that I know you for is Tubb blog. Basically,
Yes.
you've ran a blog for like literally decades, practically. When did you start that blog again?
Yeah, so I think it's either coming up to or gone past 20 years now.
Yeah.
So I actually
So
started, it was back in Windows Live Spaces day, if you can remember such a thing, all the way back in the day, well before WordPress and all of that stuff. But yeah.
yeah. So you're in the MSP space, aren't you? Managed service providers. Can you give me
Yeah.
what's that in a nutshell?
Yeah. So first of all, given the Scottish bent to this show, it's not a member for Scottish Parliament. Let's just clear that one up right there. So people ask what an MSP is. An MSP, a managed service provider, is a IT support company, an IT provider who provides support, outsource support typically for small businesses geographically local to them. And they do it instead of you calling somebody in and you say, hey, we want you to fix our PC, and you would pay a bill for them. For a one-off to fix it. Now, what a managed service provider does is charges you like a monthly fee or an annual fee and looks after all of your IT for you. So they're not just the IT guys, they become your advisor, your consultant, and somebody to help you grow the business with technology.
Yeah, excellent. And you ran a blog there for, like you said, 20 plus years and just been an epic creator in that area throughout that whole time, haven't you?
Yeah, so I started the blog out when I ran my MSP business. So I ran my own IT company. I then sold that IT company, where are we? Probably 13 years ago. But the blog had got so popular by that point that other IT business owners then started reaching out to me and saying like, ooh, would you come in and give us some of the benefit of the advice and the secret sauce that you've been sharing on your blog? So the blog grew into a whole business, and fast forward to the present day, and we do, Tubb blog, the hub for MSPs, as it's now called, is like a destination for IT providers to go and find podcasts and videos and ebooks and everything. So it went from the Tubb blog, Richard Tubb blogger, to being the media business that you see today.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. It's such a good niche. Like, it feels so specific, but I'm sure there's like loads of niches within that for yourself as well. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to come back to that though. We'll come back to that after we'll go through a few tools first. So Richard, do you want to kick us off? What have you brought to help creators out today?
I'm going to start off with a piece of hardware because, as Jacob knows, I'm a geek and I love this sort of stuff. But the hardware, all joking aside, is a really important one for me, and that it's the Elgato Teleprompter, which I'm actually looking at right now down the lens. And it was released, I think it was in December of 2023. And it sort of went with not too much fanfare. But the reason that I'm such a huge fan of it is, so most of the videos, most of the content that I create will be to camera, but it tends to be quite ad hoc, similar to what we're doing now, having just a chat. But I get asked to do quite a few like promo videos when I'm speaking at events, other things of that nature. And I don't know about you guys or anybody watching, but I find it really difficult to keep my head on point and to hit all of the bullet points, dates of events and who's speaking and things of that nature. So the Elgato teleprompter, I've played with teleprompters before and never really had much success. And I put it down to the friction, getting the thing set up. Most of them, you have to install an iPad and put some software on and press a button to trigger it and all the rest of it. It's a real pain. The Elgato teleprompter, the one I'm looking at right now, it's an all-in-one unit, and it just comes, with a power cable, a USB cable that goes into your computer, and literally, you can't see it here, but I've got a monitor this side, I've got a monitor that side, and I've got the teleprompter in the middle. And the Elgato teleprompter, the great thing about it is, obviously, you can use it as a teleprompter, to help you stay on track with what you need to say, and it's brilliant at doing that. But you can also use it as you know, another screen, a mini screen. So I'm looking at you guys there, and I've got, you know, the software set up so I can stare directly down the screen at you instead of looking to the side or one or the other. And I guess if you were maybe a streamer, you know, a gamer or whatever, you could use the prompter for looking at the chat while you're playing the game or doing things. So I can see multiple uses for it, but the number one for me is I've got it permanently set up. I've got the Elgato Pro camera, I think it is, like a professional web camera installed in it. And that's it. It just works. So I don't have to worry about fiddling, setting things up. I just sit down, throw the script up or fire up Zoom or whatever it might be, and bosh, away we go. So I absolutely love it because I've reached that age now. I don't want to mess around with technology. I just want it to work. And this stuff just works.
Yeah, it's so good. I talked about this on the show just briefly, actually. So it's great to get your thoughts on it a couple of weeks ago because I got it then. But I'm loving it even more now than I was at that point. And it's exactly all the stuff you're saying. Like I've got our broadcast software right now on this as well. So I'm staring at you too, and I try. It's just so simple. It makes such a difference actually, just looking people in the eye, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I've
increased engagement.
Before this, I've got an NVIDIA graphics card in the machine. We're going really geeky now. Sorry, Jacob, getting into it. But the reason I bought the NVIDIA graphics card, Carl, I said to you, was because it comes with a piece of software that enables you to use AI to follow your eyes. So I could be looking over there, and it would actually make sure my eyes are still looking at the screen.
Yeah,
and that you know,
weird.
and that was it was weird. It works, but it's too weird. It really is. Like I'd be turning away there to chat off screen, and my eyes would still be going to the screen. So looking at the person you're speaking to at eye level, directly forward, makes a huge amount of difference as well. Zoom calls. So as I said, you know, it's a teleprompter. But it's also, you can use it for a multitude of other things. And I think the biggest thing is just looking straight down the camera.
Yeah. I've used it for a few live events since I got it set up, and I've had my script up there, but I've had it, you know, you get the, what would you call it? The opacity. So you can have your script there showing the text, but you can still see the people behind it. You can still see reactions. You can still make sure things are moving, you know, so like you can kind of do both at the same time quite easily. That's always my worst fear with a live event, isn't it? Like you're presenting away, you've been speaking for 5 minutes and you suddenly realize that your camera locked up like 5 minutes ago.
I never even thought of that, you know, fading it out so you can see. So thank you. That's something I'll take.
Yeah, it's really good. And just that, just having it always set up. I've recorded more course videos in the last 2 or 3 weeks than I have in the last 2 or 3 years, probably, just because it's been so simple to just quickly write something up, throw it up on the screen and just go. And it's just, just seems to work.
As I said, it just removes the friction to getting the work done. And, you know, I've been doing this video thing for many years now, and people go, oh, you're a natural at it. I can tell you I'm not. It still takes me a lot of effort to jump on and to do things. And if there's any type of friction where it's like, oh, I've got to remember my lines or this, that, or the other, it can just put a roadblock, and I procrastinate over getting the work done, getting the videos done. Whereas now this is set up, I just sit down, literally stroll into the studio, sit down, prick record, bosh, and away we go.
Yeah. Even on the other end, makes editing easier because you do less bad takes, less kind of refinement to do. Yeah. And do you know something?
Mark, my video editor, loves it. So
yeah, I'll bet. Do you know something I didn't realize? I've just realized I'm an idiot. Like I looked at this picture here. There's one in front of us for anyone just listening, and it shows a light attached to the top of the prompter. So you can actually attach a light to it. I was like, how did they do that? Just glue it on. And I've looked up at the prompter in front of me, and it has a hot shoot mount just right there on the top of it.
Isn't there? I've only just noticed. Yeah, very cool.
Because I've got a light over here
built
on a
in.
different mount.
Is the screen built in not standard? Is that what makes this special? I have no experience with prompters at all. It seems like by the way that the two of you are describing it, it's a no-brainer.
Teleprompters normally, I don't know what your experience with them has been like, Colin, but you get like a glass mirror that goes there. There. And then you put an iPad or something. So, and then the iPad or whatever it might be beams the image up onto the camera, so you can then see the text or whatever it is you need to say, but the camera that's sitting behind it doesn't get blocked. Whereas this is an actual screen. It's like a mini, you know, it's got a HDMI connection, but the screen is down there and the screen is beamed up. So it's very similar to having an iPad and a traditional teleprompter. But as we said, you don't have to faff around with getting the iPad connected and starting it and doing stuff. It's just a screen that works. So
yeah, I tried to do something similar. I tried to use my iPad. So I basically got a stand for my iPad, positioned it above the camera. The problem is I'm still not quite looking at the camera, but I had to have two mice, one to scroll the iPad and then one to control the computer. So even the fact that actually it's just an HDMI into it and it's just another screen, that kind of sells me on it, to be honest.
Exactly. I mean, I can imagine, as I said, that there's a multitude of uses for people who don't want to use it as a teleprompter, but just you want to use it as a screen, you know, but you can see what's going on there without it interfering with anything. So yeah, really good piece of gear. Not that expensive, I don't think either, was it, Colin? But so I got mine on order. It was maybe $300, less than that.
£280, I think they are their RRP, but I think I got it a wee bit less somehow. Must have been a wee sale on or something. But yeah. It's that though, isn't it? It's the fact that with an iPad, I've played around with it just like that too, Jacob. But you have to like, it's not a small faff to like transfer a document from your computer to the iPad, even if you've got AirDrop and stuff. I'm not on a Mac, so it's even harder to like transfer it over. I mean, it's not that hard. You can just like put it on Notion or something and open it up, but it's still far more difficult than just literally dragging a screen from your computer monitor onto the little monitor. So yeah, it's just so well connected. I think that's the big thing for me.
There's a little thing that goes on with mine. I don't know. Well, you're up in the even grimmer north than where I am in Newcastle upon Tyne, further up there where it gets colder. But Colin, do you find that your unit sort of not gets frosty, but looks a little bit as though it's got a frost effect on it to begin with before it warms up?
Oh, the little, like the prompter itself, the wee monitor.
Yeah, it literally, like I come in and so obviously the studio here, I keep it reasonably warm, but then I turn the heating on when I get in properly to do the work. But I've actually found that the screen will look like frosted and then it slowly defrosts. So I don't know whether it's a feature or a bug or what. Maybe I've got the winter feature turned on it or something like that, Winter Wonderland. But yeah, it really does. So yeah. And I don't know whether it's because it's too cold in here for it.
Certainly not someone I've noticed, no.
Maybe somebody from Elgato will be watching and can tell us.
If we'd tried that in our old studio where Matthew and I used to work in Dundee, that was a studio where we paid for the heating ourselves, and therefore it was literally just, when we turned it on, and you'd walk in and it would be like -2 sometimes indoors. We destroyed a couple of mics once because it was just so cold. The mics like froze and broke.
Not dissimilar here, which is why I'm wearing a cardigan today. So
yes. Excellent. Okay, thanks for that, Richard. That was great. So that was the Elgato prompter. All right, Jacob, what have you got for us this week?
I want Richard to guess what he thinks this is. It's called Crazy Egg.
I can't even tell you where my mind is going with this one, Jacob. So I know there's a company called New Egg that's somewhat technology-wise, but no, I couldn't even guess.
I think it's a great example of why naming your brand doesn't matter as much as we like to think it does. So it's kind of like Hotjar, if you've ever heard of that. It's essentially a landing page optimization tool. It's like a whole sort of toolbox of things. Split tests built in, either redirect tests, or it'll actually let you sort of make changes, and then it'll apply them dynamically on the page. Surveys, heat maps, session capture, all of the things that you might need to optimize a landing page just in one place. We had someone on recently, I think it was Amanda Webb, who was talking about Microsoft Clarity. I'd used Microsoft Clarity a while ago, and that's a free option that does quite similar things, not with all the features. I found that to be really clunky, didn't work when I needed it to. It was often down. So we switched to Crazy Egg a while ago, and we've used Hotjar as well. But this is a complete lifesaver when you're just not quite sure why a page isn't working right. So an example recently is we have a thank you page after people sign up for our newsletter. And on that thank you page, we offer them a copy of our book at a discounted price. And we're getting good signups on it. But I knew there was just something wrong. It just kind of stopped working as well after a while. And it turns out there was a problem with the actual call to action button. Nothing that I could actually see on my end, but I was able to go and watch the session captures, basically press play and watch a video of someone using the landing page and seeing them rage click it gets identified as. So they'll click, 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 and nothing will happen. And that pointed me in the right direction, found the problem, and was able to fix it. But yeah, even for things like testing different headlines, different bits of copy, if you want to go, test changing the colors of your buttons and all that kind of stuff, you can do all that. But really, everything that I need to optimize a landing page is there in one tool, and I've gotten a lot of use out of it. Really, really handy. Have you ever used anything similar on your site, Richard?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Amanda Webb. So Amanda is the Google Analytics expert. We actually hired her to help us with our business. So I was on a call with Amanda yesterday and talking about clarity, but I wasn't aware of Crazy Egg. And I know Lenka, our operations manager, is a massive fan of like Hotjar and those type of tools. So this looks awesome.
Yeah, worth a look. Really recommend it. Yeah, we're using the surveys in a weird kind of way at the moment as well. Not the intended use case, but we've had a lot of success with it. We're polling our readers on the podcasthost.com. We get a good amount of traffic through there, and our content team is actually using that to get real data to write articles on the fly. So it's really, really nice way just to get some data from real people and create some more kind of data driven content, which tends to rank quite well. Yeah. So
Very
recommend.
nicely. How does it differ from Hotjar? Let's say, is it basically the same tool as Hotjar?
It's cheaper. Hotjar is a nice tool. It's a nice tool, but it's really overpriced. They've went the way of lots of these. A lot of marketing software tends to start off being, let's help small business, let's do this affordably, and then they realize actually we've built so much into this now that we're more or less an enterprise tool. Let's stop trying to cater for smaller business, and then you're looking at hundreds of pounds for a blog the size of ours to run it, and with really, really low limits and all that kind of stuff. So it's as good as Hotjar, in my opinion, slightly better in some ways, I've found, but just a hell of a lot more affordable, more fairly priced.
I love it.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, thank you. Yeah, so if you're out there running a blog of any sort, a website of any sort, really, really useful tool for you. All righty. So I've got one for you. Are you doing much video these days, Richard?
Yeah, quite a lot. So we do live video from events and things as well. So I was in London last week with a team at the MSP show. Again, IT show, nothing to do with the politicians, and the service desk show and a client show as well. And we were doing lots of talking head videos. And I say live, it's nearly live. We put them up there. We get the videos recorded. We share them with the team in like a Google Drive. The team edit them, add captions and all the rest of it and put it on. So it's just in time. The videos will be up within an hour on social media. But we do a lot of that. And I personally do, obviously, since the world changed a few years ago, I used to do a lot of keynote speaking on stages, but actually I do way more behind the monitor now, virtual events, which again is another reason why the Elgato teleprompter is going to be such a boon as well.
Yeah. What do you know what your software stack is for video? Like what you're using to edit?
Yeah, we've got a mixture. So let's have a look. I think we use a combination of either Headliner or Flixia for doing the editing. We just started using a new piece of software called Whisper Transcribe for doing the transcriptions or the SRTs, those types of things. Because the traditional ones would be like Otter and things of that nature. But as Jacob just said, we have absolutely found that to be the case. You sign up with a tool, you get really good value from it, and then they go, we're going to raise the price, we're going to raise the price, we're going to lower the features, we're going to raise the price. And it's like, we can't be doing with that. We want the tool to work reliably and to be keen pricing. We don't go for the cheapest, but you've always got to be reviewing your tools, haven't you? Because there's better tools coming out that are better priced. They're hungrier for the business. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the incumbents can get a little bit rest on their laurels. So
tend to escalate. Yeah. Well, I've always been an Adobe user. We've always used Adobe a lot within our team. Matthew's, that's his main tool is Adobe Audition. And whenever I've done video, I've always ended up on Premiere just because it was available to me. And also, it's just good. It's always been one of the big choices too. But I have graduated away from Premiere a lot in the last couple of years, simply because there's been so many decent, semi-automated assisting tools. More recently, I was using one called Filmora, which was still a download, but it just had a lot of automation built in. It has like a B-roll library built in. It just has transcriptions built in, all that kind of stuff. And it felt like Premiere was still just this really kind of technical tool that didn't really help you with that much. Rightly or wrongly, maybe I was just missing it. But whether I was or not, it feels like they've just released a whole bunch of stuff in the last 6 months, which has really caught them right up. So thought worth sharing, because this saved me an absolute ton of time editing the last episode of this very show, the Creator Toolbox, the one I did with Justin, because I discovered randomly that they have introduced silence removal and ums and ahs removal as well inside Premiere. So you can go into Premiere. I'll just share the screen, actually, just give a wee view on this. It's kind of maybe slightly hard to see here, but I'll scroll through. If you've got your video uploaded, you get a transcription made really easily. So that's been in Premiere for a wee while. So you can see the transcription on the screen there. And what they've got now is that up the top, you can filter. So there's a filter icon, which you can choose to say filler words. There's there. So click that filter, click filler words, and then it highlights all of the filler words in the video there, in the transcription, I should say. And then you've got two choices. You can either lift or extract them. Extract, if you click that, actually cuts them out. And you can see down the bottom there, it's cut out all the filler words and squashed it right down, taking them all out. Similar with lift, but it leaves all the spaces in there. So you can kind of see where the cuts are, and do whatever you like with it from there. Put in your inserts, your segments, whatever it is. So I just find that so useful. And they've also got their essential sound built into it now as well. So a bit of cleanup too. So that's been really handy for me, because I'm still using Filmora for some of the similar ones, for some of the simpler ones. And I'll continue to use the simpler tools for most of my podcast video editing. And in fact, we want Alitu to do all of this in the future. It can do the same stuff. It can do ums and ahs removal. It can do the audio cleanup, and videos coming very soon. So I'll be able to use that for the simpler stuff. But it's really cool to see Premiere here for the more complex type videos, where I want to have, a few different elements. I want to have some music in the background. I want to have loads of different stuff. So it's more of a production, and I can see Premiere just saving so much time on that. And I've been using it a lot recently for that. So yeah, just to point that out, the fact that that's in there now for anyone who already subscribes to Premiere, because it's obviously not the cheapest tool in the world as well. All righty. Cool. Yeah. So that's Premiere.
It still looks so clunky though. I'm just looking at that and I'm already like internally groaning.
I did the same, Jacob. Yeah. As not as a video editing guy, I'd look at it and go, I want big Duplo size buttons to go do this.
Yeah, there's way too much going on in that screen. Like I can't even make out half of it. Yeah, no, you can.
I love it. If you invest time in learning it, I think that looks really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a tool. It's a proper professional tool. It's like, you're even on this screen here, I'm hiding away half of the fancy things, but even on the left there, you've got like 15, 20 different elements just in that one block. And down the bottom, you've got another 15, 20, 100. There's so much on the screen. So it's definitely a steep learning curve, quite clunky, but if it's a really complex production, it's a good place. But I'm still thinking our goal is really to make it so that like Alitu can already do a lot of this to audio. So we're going to do what this can do basically for video in the next 6 months, I believe.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
So it's cool for now. Yeah.
The other end of the scale, I mentioned that the royal we, the team produced those talking head videos, so we just record it and away it goes. But then we get a lot of those talking head videos, and the team this week produced like a longer form video where they push them all together, all the different talking head videos with transitions, and they just use Canva to do that. And I wouldn't have even thought Canva for the video side, but you know what? The results came out really, really nice. So
yeah,
nice.
That's cool. Have you played with Canva video yet, Jacob?
Aye, a bit. I can't remember exactly what my blocker was with it. My main gripe with many of the browser-based video platforms is the fact that I need to upload and I need to wait for the uploads, and sometimes uploads fail. I think that was one thing that I struggled with when I tried to use Canva, is that the upload failed. And I told you about this recently. What was the one I tried, Colin, recently, and I had issues with? It was Veed. Veed looked quite good.
Yes.
And I was so surprised. I uploaded my uploaded my footage, and I instantly could start working on it. So it obviously took it started using the local copy somehow, and I thought that was great. But in the background, it was uploading it, and it got hung up on the upload, and then decided you can no longer work on the local version, and the upload is broken. So everything that you've done over the last hour is gone and out the window. Brilliant. So yeah, I have a bit of a no-go zone with browser-based video stuff in general, but I do think that Canva, out of all of the sort of browser-based solutions, certainly for on the image side of things, I've used it to make some like little kind of like animated elements and stuff. It's really, really nice. For shorter stuff, I think it's probably fantastic. Or for not complex stuff, I was trying to be over fancy with some of the things I was doing, Richard. Far too many edits and stuff like that. But for like a talking head video where it's top and tail and add them all together and export it, why not?
Yeah. Cool. All right. Perfect. Right. Let's move on to another one. Richard, what you got? You said you had a bit of software to share. Is that right?
Yeah, so obviously we're talking creators and things, but you've already alluded to the fact sometimes we, as the creator, the person on camera or behind the microphone, is not the one that then actually does the editing and the production, the promotion, and all of that jazz that goes with it. Certainly, if it was left up to me, as you know, Colin, all of this great content that I create would end up gathering virtual dust. That's why I've got Team Tubb, and they produce it and publish it and promote it and everything. But to get the consistency in place there is the challenge, and that's where checklists come into it. And so we use a tool called Manifestly. Manifestly, it's very simple. It is a checklist tool. But what it does for checklists is, like, you can either use checklists really simply, or you can go into the depth with checklists and have nested checklists and checklists that are kicked off by date. But the bottom line here is, it enables the entire team to work collaboratively on a set process that we've put in place for producing podcasts, producing videos, even blog posts. It's just the little things that you can miss out. So I'll give you a great example. Producing a podcast, for instance, the naming structure or the numbering of the podcast episodes, it's really easy to go, is it episode 003? Is it episode 3? Is it series 4, episode 3? What's it look like? So the checklist that we've got in place in Manifestly enable us to just say, with screenshots and with text and all sorts of things, to say, this is how you do it. And so for every piece of work within our business that is repeated, we end up creating a Manifestly, or Manny, as we call it within the team, checklist to do it. And so it grows over time. And it means if you've got people coming, perhaps leave the team and somebody else joins, there's not that bit where you have to say, oh, right, let me show you in painstaking detail how to do it, what are the gotchas, and all the rest of it. And so we use it extensively within our business. I'd say it's like, a major tool. Now, I'm aware there are other tools, there's ClickUp, there's Notion, heck, there's even Evernote and, OneNote and things of those nature that can be used for doing checklists. But what we found is Manifestly is really, really good if you're building a business that is all about consistently producing, high quality work. And so Manifestly for me is like the king of the checklist tools. We've used it for years and years now. And the Manifestly team, Jacob, we were saying earlier, these organizations or these businesses start out small, and then, it grows, the tool gets out of control, and they start charging accordingly. The Manifestly team, we've always found really, really responsive, to our needs. They're a small, tight-knit team, but they just do really good work. So, king of checklists.
Awesome. It's just like a playbook, like a sort of interactive. Yeah. That's really, really cool. It's not what I thought it was. I thought it was just yet another to-do list app. There's an acronym for
No, it really isn't. And that's the thing. We can all, I mean, you can just pick up a pen and paper, can't you, and start creating to-do lists. But it's really not. It's a repeatable process, you know, for a checklist for doing things again and again.
Yeah,
That's
really
so
cool.
great. Yeah, like SOPs, I've tried to put a lot of work into in the past. Just try and have them there ready for anyone else to use, but they just go out of date so easily if you end up with them in Notion and stuff like that. If you're not really using them actively, I don't know. That's how I always found. So does this help
Notion
you keep them up to date more because they're there?
Yeah, and the entire team have got the ability to jump in and to update any of the workflows because, as you say, standard operating procedures. It was big for me when I ran the IT business. IT is very much built about consistency and doing things to a high quality again and again. So when I started this business now and started getting into taking content creation seriously, the ability to actually have a standard operating procedure that you can put screenshots in, that you can put notes in, that you can put links to documents in, that you can put all sorts of things. It just enables people to get things done. And we use it for the content creation, but we use it for all aspects of the business. So, you know, if we've got a tax return that needs doing or an invoice that needs raising, whatever it might be, anything that's going to be done again and again and again repeatedly, we end up creating a manifestly checklist for. And out of the box, they give you loads of different checklists that you can use. You can see some of the ones on screen there. Employee onboarding, we use it for that. But if you've got any business where you need to do things consistently, repeatably to a high level, Manifestly is a really good tool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Just a small point on, you mentioned like Notion and ClickUp and all these tools can do the same. I am increasingly over time a huge advocate for the right tool for the job. Just because they can do it doesn't mean that, and even if they can replicate 99% of the functionality, I find Notion to be a black hole of hopes and dreams. Having one place where you can go and you know that all that's in there is this type of work. You have time in your day that you've set aside to do work in there. Like, I don't know. I think there's not enough stock put in sort of people's brain space and context. You know, if I'm going into something like Manifestly, I know what it is that I'm going to be working. I'm going to be working on process, so I get myself into that mindset. But there's going to be all these little details as well, and I will try it out to see what they are. I've not tried it yet. But yeah, big advocate for the right tool for the job. Like we had a bit of software called Timetastic, and that was for managing folks' time off. We switched to another bit of software called People HR or something like that. I think that's what it's called, and it does everything. It does all the HR things that we need for the kind of size of the company that we are. Arguably a bit too much, but it now takes, like, it's just not. The main thing that our employees go in there and use it for is for taking time off, and it takes ages and it takes too many clicks. Timetastic, it was like one click. I could really easily see what my holidays are. I can see when the rest of the team's off. It was the perfect tool for that job, and I'm always going to be better that we got rid of it. So yeah, right tool for the right job, always and where possible.
I couldn't agree with you more. We use we're talking about Notion, ClickUp. We migrated from ClickUp to a brilliant project management tool called Blue. Blue.cc. Really, really good. And actually, it's got the facility within it probably to build checklists and to do all of that stuff, you know. And Lenka, our operations manager, and no doubt I'll be watching this, and she was like, we should think about moving from Manifestly to Blue to have everything in one place. And I'm like, I'm not saying no. However, for all the reasons you just mentioned, it's like, if you want to get into the zone of just following a process, I think there's a lot of value to be had in saying, right, I'm going to that tool to do that job, and then change your headspace into being a creator or whatever it might be afterwards. So
yeah,
agree.
No, I'm not going to disagree with that, despite the fact that as the person who pays the bills, I'm quite enjoying like everything in one place. But I know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
It's definitely there's definitely downsides. I miss Timetastic too, to be fair. All right, let's finish up our tools. Richard, you said you had one mindset hack to finish up with, didn't you? What have you got?
Yeah, so I don't know if you call it a mindset hack or whatever, but I'm a big fan of experiments. So years ago, when I had the IT company, if you approach people with, hey, we're going to change this perhaps time-tastic or whatever. It's like people tend to resist change, don't they? So the mindset that I wanted to share was to do with experiments. And I'll share a specific experiment that we started and has become a huge success. But experiments are great because instead of like, oh, we're going to change this, you say, we're going to experiment with doing this. And people are open to experiments because we all like to think of ourselves as open-minded and adventurous and that. So people have been less resistant to the change. So we've experimented with a few things over the years. Probably most famously, certainly within my industry, was I experimented 14 years ago with not working Fridays, only working a 4-day week. And I ran that past clients and everything, and everybody was like, yeah, fine, because an experiment, if it doesn't work, well, you just go back to the way you were. A change feels much more written in stone, doesn't it? So I experimented with the 4-day week 14 years ago, and now it's what I'm known for within the IT industry. Oh, people say I want to aspire to work in a 4-day week like you do, Rich. And I'm like, well, it's an experiment. We'll see. But the experiment we attempted or tried maybe 2 years ago now was with short form content, and specifically, so I do a video every Friday called the Tubbservatory. So this is the Tubbservatory we're in. And Pascal Fintonia, our wonderful content strategist, he said, I envisage a video where you're looking through a telescope or looking out, observing what's going on in the world and sharing it with the industry. So the Tubbservatory video we started a couple of years ago, and it's literally like 5 not dissimilar to this format, but very short form, maybe 2 minutes or so, 5 different tools or pieces of news or strategies or opinions, whatever it might be, from around the IT industry. And we have a lot of fun with it, but that was the experiment. And that brief overview of things, in the attention-starved modern world, I think has been really successful for us. So Tubbservatory has been going for a couple of years now. We've upgraded the branding and stuff. It takes me less than 30 minutes to do it. The video comes out every Friday, but it's built up quite a following. So hopefully that makes sense. But you've got 2 there. You've got the mindset of an experiment rather than change, and an example of a couple of the different experiments that I've done. But I wanted to link that last one into a content experiment that's worked really well for us.
That's brilliant. Love it. Yeah, experiments, all for that. It's just the willingness to fail, isn't it? It's the willingness to say that we're going to try this, and if it goes wrong, then that's fine. We tried something. Another thing that doesn't work. It's all good.
I think you're bang on about it being easier for people to grab a hold of as well. I think generally as soon as you're working with more than like 3 or 4 people, any kind of change is there's going to be friction. So just telling them that, like, if this doesn't work out, your life isn't going to be awful. We'll just not do it anymore. It goes a long way. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, right. Let's move on to our creators of the week to finish up. First of all, of course, Richard, your errors. So we've got a few questions for you. Jacob, you want to start off? You had a couple of things you wanted to ask Richard, I think, about his work, didn't you?
Yeah. So I only recently understood what it is exactly that you do. So
you and
I'll be honest with you. Yeah. So my question to you is, what would you say to creators who currently promote many products, who might have many small deals that, let's say it's a podcaster or a blogger, and maybe they've been approached by a brand to do a couple of guest posts or a couple of sponsored episodes. What would you say to creators? What could they learn from the way that you do business, which is more long-term partnerships? What advantages are there to your model, and how might they get started in that versus these kind of ephemeral one-off kind of small deals?
Yeah, I think when you're first starting out, so I've explained my background. I had the benefit of running an IT company and getting quite well known in my industry before I became a full-time content creator, paying the bills with it, so to speak. So perhaps my situation is slightly different to many, but I know for certain you won't find any shortage of people who want you to create content for free for them. And that can be a valuable way to get your name out there. But over time, once you've started to build your own audience and stuff, don't diminish that. Don't undervalue it. So we've got tens of thousands of IT companies all over the world that watch and consume our content every day, every week, every month, every year. And we get organizations, getting in touch with us and saying, hey, can we, let's just say speaking, can we invite you to speak at our event? And I say to them, sure, what's the budget? And they say, oh, no budget, but it'd be good exposure for you. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to pay the mortgage with exposure, am I? Or anything like that. So I don't want to go down, labor on that too much, but start to value yourself. And the other one is people get in touch and they'll say, hey, we've got a great tool that we want to get in front of your audience. How's that going to work? We have a conversation with, okay, budget, here's what the demographic looks like. Is it a good fit? What's your budget? And they say, oh, we'll do it on an affiliate. So every time somebody buys through it, and we're like, whoa, okay, affiliate marketing's got a really a good place. And we've got some referral affiliate agreements with people, but you understand that actually the nature of some of the tools, certainly in our space, the B2B business to business space, just by being featured on our podcast or videos, you're going to get huge worldwide coverage. Now, some of those people who are watching that video aren't going to click right there and then and buy it. They might think about it again in 6 months, 12 months, and then go there. So, sorry, brother, but like the affiliate thing really doesn't work when you've built a good sized audience. Yeah. And the other thing is, I think as a content creator, if you're mentioning a product, if you're putting it out there in any way, you're putting your name behind it. And so I don't want to be the guy that's, in 6 months' time, somebody says, hey, I heard this product on your podcast or on your, webinar or video, bought it, and it's rubbish. And it's like, so we are very, very cautious. It's not the right word, but we do due diligence. We want to build up long-term relationships. So even if we go into a new relationship with somebody, we want it to be long-term, because if there are any challenges, we want to help them to deal with it together, rather than it's just like, oh no, that's their problem to deal with. So I don't know if that makes sense, Jacob, but in the situation when you're starting out, be wary about who you give your time to, because not every opportunity is a good one for you. And as you grow your audience, even if it's not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people worldwide, if you're in a niche and you're an influencer, be aware of that and value your own time and energy that you put into that, because there's going to be no end of people who want to swoop in and say, and they want access to your audience. But they haven't built that relationship with the audience like you have, and it takes a long time to build the relationship, and it can be broken in minutes by putting your name behind the wrong product. So for us, long term works every single time.
Fantastic answer. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. I wanted to dig into that a bit more as well, Richard. I think a lot of content creators don't realize a particular part of that for you, which is a great way to monetize, which is being an evangelist for a brand. And we've talked about that a few times in the past, because it's something I've never really managed to crack either, to be honest. Never put enough time into figuring it out. Can you talk a bit about how that works for you? Like what is the role of an evangelist with a brand, and how does it work with you and the brand together?
So there's a number of I've mentioned that our audience for Tubblog, the hub for MSPs, is managed service providers. So, globally, people who run IT businesses. However, there are a large number of vendors within the space who want to sell their tools and solutions and things to MSPs. So you've got Microsoft and other names, Google, other people that you might mention. They're the big players, but there's literally hundreds of thousands of them worldwide. And so as I was saying to Jacob, we get people getting in touch, but we don't go into it as like, hey, we will be your evangelist. That is not there. So there's a handful of people that we work with very long-term relationships. And I act as an advisor to the business. So it's like, you've got the benefit of my experience, you've got the benefit of my contacts. I will be an advisor for your business. But the flip side to that coin is I'll be a critical friend. So when you are doing things that ain't going to work, I will tell you. I won't be afraid to say that your baby is ugly. I will get in there, and I want you to know up front, we're going to do that because that's the way this relationship's going to work. It's not just going to be me saying nice things to you. So the majority of people that I've worked with over the years, vendors, have totally understood that. And that's the real value. You know, they're getting me as a consultant, as an advisor. Oh, and by the way, as you know, because I've gone into business with them and I believe in their product, then of course I will mention them in front of my audience. But it's done in such a way so I'm not just hitting people over the head and saying, "Hey, go and buy the Elgato products; they're brilliant." Unless you've got a relationship with Elgato. But what I'll do is, I will mention, "Hey, I use the Elgato products and stuff." And I think after this, Colin, we should get in touch with Elgato and say, we are your new evangelist. But I hope that makes sense. It's not about just saying, hey, you pay me this much money and I'll mention that, because I really become uncomfortable with the term influencer, because it makes it sound like you're selling nail makeup on Instagram and sponsored promotions and things. That's not what we do. And the other side of the flip side of the coin is, you don't want the audience to ever go, "Oh, Richard's only mentioning that because he's getting paid." Well, I don't get paid to mention anything, but there are a small handful of companies that I am an advisor to, and I'm upfront about it, and I mention them because I probably would have mentioned them anyway. That's the litmus test for it. So there's nobody I've ever worked with that it's like, yeah, we're mentioning them because we get paid, not because we believe in the product, even if we didn't get paid. And I often go into those relationships and say, I might talk myself out of business here, but we're going to mention you anyway. So just to let you know, if you're just want to work with us just for the mentions, save you money. But if you want to work with, get our benefit as an advisor, we can do that for you.
That's the real value. Yeah. I think people will be interested in the actual, like, how this really works on a logistical basis. Like, how much time do you have to commit generally? A month to something like that?
It depends. So we try to, the contracts that we have are structured. So we say, because when you first go into that relationship, people want to know what it is they're going to get. And we say to them, actually, and the majority who come with us, as I said, they get it. So they know that it's not the number of clicks or this, that, or the other. It's literally, hey, we're going to work with you, and your word carries a great deal of weight in the industry. But we do have contracts where we say, yeah, these are some of the deliverables that we're going to do. Like, you can choose to, we can produce content for you, or blog posts or videos, but we work with you. So we're not a marketing agency, or anything like that. We're not a PR company. We're not a sales company, but we'll work with you to help you get in front of people.
So you can say something like, I will commit to put in my blog like two a month that will relate to your content. We'll give you a mention, one podcast, that kind of thing. That kind of arrangement can work, have you found?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the way we do it. Contractually, it'll be like this, but we always massively exceed that because we love the product. So how many times have we mentioned Elgato during this? And it's because they do kick-ass products and, really, really good. And we love their company. So you're going to mention them all the time, as a matter of course.
Yeah. Do you have a rough guide in terms of actual numbers, in terms of payments? Like, what can you hope to earn from something like this as an early influencer, and maybe as you work up as well?
It really depends, and I'm not trying to be evasive with that. But obviously, I've been doing this for like 20 years, and there's very few people in the IT, my section of the IT industry, who don't know me, so that lends a lot of credibility to it. But for somebody coming in and starting out with things, but again, if you're doing let's say a blog around or knitting, or a podcast around knitting, and you've got really well known it, and we've got friends who have done that, within knitting circles, nice little knitting pun there, you might be like a big name, but you might only still be known by 500 people worldwide. But for somebody in the knitting area, that might be worthwhile. So it's all about what is it worth to the person, the people that you're working with. It's got to be a relationship that works for both of you. So hopefully that's not too evasive. I'm not trying to be. It's just, it depends on who you are and where you are.
No, I think that's a good answer. It's the answer we always give for sponsorship as well. Like, so many people get caught up in CPMs, like cost per 1,000 listeners, but it's so much more about the type of audience, the targeting of that audience, how actionable that audience is.
Yeah. If we did the cost per millions and all of that sort of stuff, like, our business, we're not Tim Ferriss or anything like that. It's going to be pennies that we get paid, but that's not it. The real value is like, okay, we've got tens of thousands of people who follow, which is still a decent number, but they really follow what you say. It's not just a huge mailing list or whatever. It's like they properly pay attention to it. So I think it's going back to the earlier conversation. Value yourself, value your worth in the industry. So
Perfect. All right. Jacob, did you have anything you wanted to add on the end there before we move on?
Nothing that wasn't already answered, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, perfect. All right, Richard, let's finish up with your own creator of the week. Who are you following these days? Who's on your radar in terms of creators?
Well, I was going to mention just one person, and I will,
Okay.
but I'm going to mention a second as well. So I want to start at, because me giving a short answer to anything, because you probably worked out impossible thing. So somebody from my industry that I want to give a shout out to is a good friend called Paul Green. He's called the MSP marketing expert, and he runs the MSP marketing podcast and video show. Now, Paul's an old school marketer. So he uses modern tactics, but with old school things. So he produces a ton of great content, such as the video and the podcast and things. But he also produces printed newsletters, books, things of that nature as well. So that's the reason I wanted to give Paul a shout out. And Jacob, you know, me and Colin are geeks. We talk about that. Paul works in the MSP industry, but he's not a geek. He understands geek talk, but he actually comes at it from a marketing perspective rather than an IT geek perspective. So yeah, Paul Green's MSP marketing, fantastic, and somebody I consider a friend and look up to. But the other person I wanted to give a shout out to on a broader scale is a great friend, John Espirian. I don't know have you had John on the show before?
No, we haven't. No, not at all.
You've got to get.
I'd love to. John's great. John's so good.
Yeah. So we were at John's Uplift Live event in Birmingham in UK a few weeks ago, and that's the UK's first LinkedIn event. Now, John is a content creator on LinkedIn, but he's got the Espresso Plus community, his own paid membership community, but it's all around how to use LinkedIn and how to use it effectively. Now, there's tons of LinkedIn experts out there, isn't there? But what John does is, man alive, he is really good at doing A/B testing, at managing by metrics, at those experiments that I talked about earlier. So I'd highly recommend John's work. He's got books out there. He's got, he posts. But John's entire ethos is he is relentlessly helpful. He's always trying things out and helping. So if you use LinkedIn in your creative business in any way, shape, or form, John Espirian is the first person that I'd recommend going in and checking out. And the Espresso Plus community, a few £100 a year, but it's just full of, again, not LinkedIn coaches, just telling you stuff you already know, but people who are really at the cutting edge of using LinkedIn. So
that's excellent. Yeah, John's been around for a long time as well, hasn't he? He's been doing this for, as long as I've been aware of LinkedIn. Awesome
guy.
Yeah, excellent stuff. All right. That was excellent. Thank you, Richard. That was really useful. Tons of great tools, some good chat. Thank you very much. I hope you out there listening have found a couple of things to put in your own workflow as well. This has been the Creator Toolbox. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, joined by Jacob, as always, and Richard Tubb from Tubblog. Where's the best place to find you, Richard, if somebody wants to ask a question? And what socials are you on these days?
All over the place, but the main platforms tend to be LinkedIn and Instagram nowadays for the fun stuff. But Tubblog, TUBBLOG.co.uk, and you can find it there, or just do a search Richard Tubb, TUBB MSP. You'll find me splattered everywhere, and I'm so sorry.
You need to do. Perfect. All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.